It was supposed to be a routine promotional appearance. Brad Pitt, here to talk about his latest film, sat across from Michael Strahan on Good Morning America, the sun streaming into the studio, cameras running, staff buzzing. But within moments, the tone shifted. What began as warm greetings and light banter escalated into tension. The audience, the live studio crowd and millions watching at home, had no idea they were about to witness one of the most explosive exchanges in morning television history. Strahan started with the simple question, "Brad, tell us about your role, how you prepared." Pitt answered pleasantly at first, describing his character, the emotional arc, the physical demands. But then Strahan, probing deeper, asked about rumors in the press, about on-set disputes, about Pitt's relationships with co-stars. His question, though framed neutrally, carried undertones. Pitt's face tightened, the pleasant facade cracked just a little. The tension mounted once Strahan followed up, pressing for specifics. "There are reports this director clashed with you over creative control. Did that cause friction?" At that point, Pitt paused. The camera lingered. The silence stretched. Then Pitt responded, voice calm but firm, "I won't entertain rumor mills right here." The exchange resumed, but the undercurrents of hostility were now visibly shared glances, a tightened jaw, a shift in posture. Strahan, sensing resistance, didn't relent. He pivoted. "In your career you've had legendary collaborations, but also some that went public with disagreements. Do you regret any of these?" The phrasing was polite, but Pitt, clearly feeling baited, replied sharply, "Regret the truth? I don't do that." The crowd gasped. The anchor table's normal rhythm, questions, answers, cutaways, faltered, replaced by brittle tension. The hosts attempted to parry, interjecting softer questions, a talk of film festivals, supporting cast, Pitt's passion for humanitarian work. But the momentum of the clash could not be reversed. With every attempt to shift the energy, Pitt's replies grew curt, strained. His answers, once flowing, now came in short, clipped bursts. His eyes darted past the camera, focusing on one fixed point beyond. Strahan, refusing to back down, leaned into it. "Let me ask plainly, was there a moment on set where you lost your temper?" The question landed. Pitt's expression flickered, hurt, anger, resolve. After a beat, he burst, "Are we here to talk about my process or your headlines?" His voice rose. The studio fell silent. The audience was stunned. The anchor mic crackled as the tension peaked. The co-host tried to de-escalate. "Brad, maybe we let that one go, or tell us about your favorite scene." But Pitt shook his head, taking the offensive. "No, let's stay there, because if your questions are going to ride gossip and insinuation, I won't play." The camera cut between stunned hosts, Strahan's composed but unsettled face, and Pitt charged, standing, or leaning forward, in full fire mode. Strahan, momentarily taken aback, regained some poise. He leaned forward, lowered his voice, but held his ground. "I'm just doing a job asking questions people want answers to." Pitt's retort was immediate, cold. "There's a difference between curiosity and prying. I've tolerated that far too long." He paused. The studio's ambient noisy, the hum of lights, distant footsteps felt amplified. The audience watched stricken silence. Cameras caught the subtle micro-expressions, Strahan's tight jaw, a flicker of sympathy on one host's face, the live crew exchanging worried glances. In that frozen moment, from tension's apex, Pitt exhaled. He shifted posture, turned toward the co-host. "I'm sorry, this isn't how I wanted this." There was a fissure of vulnerability amid the rage. The hosts attempted to redirect. "Brad, perhaps we step back, talk about the film, your inspiration." Pitt's tone softened a still firm, but with wary restraint. He obliged, narrating an anecdote from the shoot, a memory with a child extra, an emotional scene. The audience exhaled with him. But the earlier outburst hung heavy in the air. The fuses had been lit. As they resumed, the dynamic was altered. Pitt answered questions cautiously, eyes shifting, tone measured. Strahan's questions became gentler, parryings rather than thrusts. Yet the undercurrent remained. The co-hosts asked about upcoming projects, philanthropic causes. Pitt responded, more subdued, but heartfelt in tone. The previous volatility had left a residue. The closing moments loomed. The hosts thanked Pitt, invited him back, wished him success. Pitt nodded, expression steely, but not confrontational. As he rose to leave, Strahan offered a handshake. Pitt paused, looked at his hand, then accepted. They faced cameras, offered brief parting remarks, but the energy was taut, a fragile piece in the aftermath. As the broadcast cut to commercial, whispers rippled through the studio. Staffers glanced at monitors, producers exchanged nervous looks. Backstage, cameras might have caught Pitt wiping his brow, Strahan sitting back, digesting. The public would replay that exchange in clips, sound bites. Later, media would debate who was at fault, whose questions were fair, who lost control. In the days that followed, social media exploded. Clips of Pitt's eruption trended. Talk shows dissected the dynamics. Did Strahan provoke? Did Pitt overreact? Commentators debated the boundaries of interview etiquette, celebrity vulnerability, the role of media. Analysts argued this would mark a shift. Pitt would be more guarded. Strahan faced criticism for pressing too hard. The talk was relentless. Ultimately, what remained was this: a moment of raw human tension interrupting the gloss of polished TV interviews. Brad Pitt's eruption on Good Morning America, whether seen as justified or ill-advised, revealed the pressures behind celebrity, the politics of questioning, and the fragility of civility under stress. That heated clash would become part of talk show lore, a cautionary tale of when conversation becomes confrontation. After the broadcast, reports began surfacing from crew members who witnessed the entire segment unfold behind the scenes. Some described Pitt's demeanor as visibly frustrated even before cameras rolled. They claimed he had been briefed that the interview would focus strictly on his film's creative process, not his personal life. When Strahan steered into personal territory, Pitt reportedly signaled his discomfort with a subtle shake of the head, which producers missed in the live rush. That small miscommunication, according to insiders, may have been the spark that lit the emotional powder keg. Later that afternoon, Good Morning America's social media team uploaded a trimmed version of the interview, omitting the harshest exchange. But fans who had seen the live broadcast immediately noticed. Within minutes, full clips began circulating online, reposted by viewers who had recorded it on DVR. Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok were flooded with hashtags #BradPittMeltdown, #StrahanShowdown, and #Macklash. The digital wildfire was unstoppable, and the morning show's attempt at soft censorship backfired spectacularly. As the story spread, public opinion divided sharply. Some viewers defended Pitt, arguing he had every right to push back against invasive questioning after decades of enduring tabloid scrutiny. Others criticized him, claiming he overreacted on national television and disrespected a veteran journalist just doing his job. Online debates became heated, with fanbases clashing and memes flooding timelines. A few commentators even drew parallels between this outburst and past celebrity breakdowns caught on live TV, fueling the cycle of speculation. Meanwhile, Pitt's representatives moved quickly to control the narrative. His publicist issued a statement that afternoon, calling the exchange a moment of human frustration misinterpreted as hostility. The release emphasized Pitt's deep respect for journalists and gratitude toward Good Morning America for the opportunity. But by the time that statement reached news outlets, millions had already formed their opinions based solely on viral clips, many taken out of context. Perception, once cemented, proved impossible to reshape. Behind closed doors, the Good Morning America production team reportedly held an emergency meeting. Sources close to the show revealed that producers debated whether to issue their own clarification. Some believed an apology was unnecessary, that live television occasionally breeds tension and should be accepted as authentic. Others worried the fallout could harm relationships with Hollywood studios, who might hesitate to send their A-list talent to the show for future promotions. The network executives faced a delicate balancing act. That evening, entertainment networks ran continuous coverage. Tabloids featured screenshots of Pitt mid-outburst, headlines screaming about his eruption. Commentators replayed the video in slow motion, analyzing body language and tone. Some lip readers even claimed to decipher muttered words that the microphones didn't pick up. The entire spectacle turned into a modern media autopsy, dissecting every gesture, every sigh, as though it were evidence in a grand trial of temperament. In the following days, Strahan addressed the situation indirectly on air. Without naming Pitt, He spoke about the unpredictable energy of live interviews and the importance of empathy, both for the interviewer and the guest. Viewers noticed his calm tone and reflective expression. Some interpreted it as a subtle olive branch. Others thought it was a quiet assertion that he had done nothing wrong. The ambiguity only deepened the intrigue, keeping the topic alive in the news cycle far longer than anyone anticipated. Meanwhile, Pitt chose silence. He cancelled a few smaller press appearances and avoided red carpet interviews. Insiders said he felt burned by the incident and preferred to let time cool public emotions. However, paparazzi still followed him relentlessly, shouting questions about Strahan as he entered studios or restaurants. Pitt, usually gracious in public, kept his head down, offering polite but brief answers or none at all. The once glowing press tour had turned into an endurance test. Weeks later, during an overseas film festival, Pitt finally broke his silence in a measured, reflective tone. "I think sometimes we forget that conversations are human," he said. "We get defensive, we misread intention, we react. That's life." His humility in that moment shifted the narrative. Critics began reconsidering their earlier harsh takes. The same media that once framed him as volatile now praised his candor and willingness to own the moment without bitterness. Interestingly, the incident sparked broader industry conversations about celebrity boundaries during live interviews. Several actors publicly voiced support for Pitt, arguing that journalists often blur the line between curiosity and intrusion. A few prominent interviewers countered, saying celebrities owe the public honesty, given the fame and fortune that attention brings. The debate became an intellectual tug-of-war about access, privacy, and performance, a proof that one heated moment could ripple far beyond the studio walls. Strahan, for his part, later revealed in a podcast that he had no ill intent. "Sometimes a question hits harder than you expect," he admitted. "You try to read the guest, but you can't always predict when someone's having a rough morning or carrying extra weight." His words humanized the situation further, transforming the narrative from scandal to lesson. Listeners appreciated his honesty, and some even commended him for addressing it without defensiveness or blame. As weeks turned into months, the memory of that fateful interview began to fade from the daily news cycle, replaced by new controversies and celebrity stories. Yet, whenever journalists discussed unforgettable live TV moments, Pitt's eruption inevitably resurfaced. It became a cultural touchstone, a shorthand reference for authenticity breaking through the fatal Section 8 of celebrity polish. Even comedy shows reenacted it, sometimes playfully, sometimes with surprising empathy. In retrospect, insiders claimed the confrontation might have even benefited Pitt's new film. Curiosity skyrocketed after the incident, and ticket sales spiked unexpectedly in its opening weekend. Audiences, perhaps subconsciously, wanted to see the work that triggered such passion. Marketing analysts noted that controversy often amplifies visibility more effectively than traditional promotion. Whether by accident or fate, the eruption had become part of the film's mythology. Over time, both Pitt and Strahan seemed to move past it entirely. At an awards show nearly a year later, the two men crossed paths backstage. Witnesses reported a friendly handshake, a few exchanged words, even a laugh. Someone captured a photo smiling, side-by-side, and the internet celebrated it as closure. Headlines read, "No bad blood, Brad and Michael reunite with respect." The story, once bitter, found its full circle ending. In the grand timeline of celebrity culture, the Good Morning America clash would be remembered not as a scandal, but as a reminder of how thin the line is between control and chaos in live television. It exposed the emotional toll behind publicity and the unpredictability that makes unscripted moments powerful. For viewers, it was shocking, captivating, and oddly human. For Brad Pitt and Michael Strahan, it was simply one morning, intense, unforgettable, but ultimately transformative. As time moved on, the infamous morning show incident evolved into something almost legendary within entertainment circles. New interviewers would whisper about it in green rooms, producers referenced it during training sessions, and young celebrities watched clips as a cautionary tale. The clip became a masterclass in the unpredictability of live television. It was replayed in media studies classes and dissected by communication experts who saw in it a perfect storm of emotion, miscommunication, and public perception all captured in real time. Analysts argued that Pitt's reaction symbolized the larger shift in how celebrities interact with the press. Gone were the days when stars simply smiled through discomfort. Now, authenticity carried value. People began craving genuine emotion over rehearsed charm. In that sense, Pitt's eruption, though seen by some as unprofessional, became an emblem of vulnerability and honesty. Fans appreciated seeing a megastar unfiltered, raw, and human for once, without the polished PR shell. Streaming platforms soon picked up on the public fascination. Documentaries about media culture began referencing the moment as a turning point in celebrity relations. Commentators dissected it frame by frame, comparing it to other on-air meltdowns throughout history. Some even suggested that Pitt's outburst helped redefine how stars manage image crises, showing that transparency could sometimes mend reputations faster than silence or denial. The narrative had morphed from scandal into legacy. Meanwhile, within Pitt's personal circle, friends described a man who had found calm after the storm. They said he took the incident as a lesson, reflecting deeply on how fame amplifies every emotion. He reportedly spoke about the importance of grounding oneself before interviews, of breathing through provocation. Those close to him noticed a change. He became more measured, more introspective. It was as if the public moment of eruption had burned away layers of defensiveness, leaving a quieter self-awareness behind. In interviews years later, when asked indirectly about it, Pitt would smile slightly and say, "That morning taught me patience." He never denied it happened, nor did he shy away from discussing emotional triggers. He spoke of pressure, fatigue, and the human side of fame, the part audiences often forget. His candor resonated with younger actors, many of whom praised him for breaking the illusion that celebrities must always maintain perfect composure under scrutiny. Michael Strahan's career, too, experienced an unexpected boost. His handling of the incident was later praised for its restraint and professionalism. Producers and viewers recognized his ability to stay composed under pressure. Though initially criticized, his image rebounded as people realized how difficult it is to maintain calm while live on air during such volatility. He emerged from the situation with even more credibility as a seasoned interviewer who could navigate chaos with poise. The entertainment industry slowly turned the episode into a teachable moment. Media workshops discussed the fine balance between journalistic curiosity and respect for personal boundaries. Training manuals for television presenters began citing the Pitt Strahan interview as an example of both tension and recovery. It became a case study illustrating how easily empathy can vanish when production schedules and viewer expectations take precedence over human comfort. For Pitt's film, the aftermath created a peculiar legacy. Critics revisited it with fresh eyes, drawing parallels between the character he portrayed and the emotions he displayed on that fateful morning. The blurred line between art and life fascinated audiences. The more people analyzed, the more they found poetic irony in how an actor promoting a film about control and emotion lost both, live on national TV. It was cinema meeting reality in the most unpredictable crossover. Over time, the narrative softened further. Fans began sharing motivational posts online, quoting Pitt's later reflections, "It's okay to lose composure, it's what you learn after that matters." His words spread widely, turning what began as a PR nightmare into an inspirational message about growth and self-control. The phrase trended briefly, used in contexts far beyond Hollywood, in sports, politics, and everyday workplace discussions about grace under fire. At one point, a popular talk show even invited both men to revisit the incident together in a friendly retrospective segment. To everyone's surprise, they agreed. When the episode aired, the two joked about it openly. Pitt laughed, saying, "I should have had more coffee that morning," and Strahan responded, "Or maybe less." The tension that once dominated headlines now melted into good-humored self-awareness. Audiences cheered not for drama, but for reconciliation. That reunion became symbolic of growth, a proof that time heals even the most public of rifts. Their laughter on camera sent a message louder than any press release could. Understanding transcends ego. It showed viewers that conflict doesn't have to end in bitterness, that people can evolve past embarrassment and blame. For both men, it was the perfect epilogue to a story once defined by tension and misunderstanding. In retrospectives published years later, Cultural critics called it one of the defining media moments of the decade. They compared it to historical live TV confrontations, noting its emotional intensity and its ultimate resolution. The saga was no longer viewed as a meltdown but as a narrative of redemption, a reminder of how vulnerability when embraced can humanize even the most untouchable stars. It reshaped how audiences perceived both Pitt and Strahan. What began as a clash became a cornerstone of conversation about empathy in the entertainment industry. It inspired younger journalists to approach interviews with more sensitivity, and it reminded celebrities that authenticity, though risky, connects more deeply with audiences than rehearsed answers. The incident's long tail of influence extended far beyond morning television. It became part of the cultural DNA of modern celebrity media relations. As for Pitt, he continued creating meaningful work. In later interviews, his tone carried a wisdom born from experience. He often spoke about learning to detach from public expectation and finding balance in an industry built on pressure. The Good Morning America eruption, once a sore memory, evolved into an anecdote he could reference with humor and humility, a reminder that no one, no matter how famous, is immune to moments of imperfection. And so, years later, when the story of that morning is retold, it is no longer framed as scandal or meltdown but as transformation. It's about two professionals caught in a storm of words, the cameras capturing not anger but humanity. What viewers once labeled eruption, history redefined as evolution, a small spark that ignited broader understanding about emotion, control, and grace in the glare of the public eye. The morning that once burned now glows quietly in memory, a lesson for generations of storytellers to come.